You can see follow up with +1 armor. Chrono boost on this is not too necessary. 2 sentries out of the gateway, and then Robo and Stargate, and eventually Twilight. Like I said, this is still pretty similar to what I was showing you guys before if you watched those videos on PvZ about a month ago. And right now, basically there's been no units lost up until this point, literally just 1 Zergling, so we'll see how these Zealots do. Now, you have 6 Zealots with +1, and they will take down a hatchery pretty quickly. I would only recommend going for the hatchery if you don't see any units when you get to his base. Now, luckily, or unluckily for me, I should say, because it was a perfect play by him, if you think about it. But he did get roaches out just as I started attacking his hatchery, so I sort of felt like I was committed to that attack, and we can see that went pretty poorly. If you want to guarantee that you're going to come ahead in units lost, and by the way, on the units tab, you will basically be neck and neck on the worker count if you do this successfully. All the way through till like the mid game, I would say you'll be neck and neck on the worker count. So yeah, if you want to guarantee that you'll be cost effective, just have your Zealots attack. You know, just maybe send 1 to kill the queen, send a couple to target down workers and whatnot. But yeah, just have them attack move all over their natural. And once again, going to the natural, not the third base, is almost always better, just because they don't usually have as many defenses at the natural. So pretty basic stuff there. We can see that my units, actually, I just want to show you something right now. Can you believe that? My armor supply is only 17, and some of that in the near future is going to be a Phoenix and a Void Ray. So that's really, really low amount of armor supply. And actually, I think they must count the units that are building as armor supply as well. So I didn't know that. But my point is, whoops, sound disabled. No! My point is, you really just want to focus on getting probes out and getting to full saturation before you really worry about getting tons of units out. And you'll sort of have to do that anyway, because these 3 gateways, you're going to want these to come down anytime after the Twilight, anytime you can afford it after the Twilight Council. And Warp Gate is just only finished up at like the 10-minute mark, so you really can't even make units until 10 minutes roughly, so there's really no rush on worrying about that. We see some more Immortals coming out, and the Phoenix, I don't know if you guys didn't watch the other videos, basically I just sent it around to scout, and what I see is a macro hatch, double evo, and that's basically it at this point. And so if you did watch those other videos, and I would keep referring to these, you would see that I would either follow up with a Stargate or a Robo, depending on whether I see like Infestation Pit or Spire. Now there's 2 other responses you can do. If you don't see even a macro hatch, and you don't see an Infestation Pit, you don't see a Spire, you can just stay on 4 Warp Gates and a Robo. Just make sure you're always making units out of these Warp Cycles. If you are going to try this build out, I would recommend getting a 5th Warp Gate. I might even start doing this as well, because you can see my money right now is ridiculous, and that's just not good at all. And that actually occurred because my Warp Gates were late this game. And because of that, we will actually get to see a pretty cool game, and that is why I picked this game to cast. Because my macro was awful, basically. So right now I have 5 units to kill off his little push, but he does see those Immortals, so he backs out. Not taking any chances on his part. And here we go, I'm going to go ahead and clear out these roaches. He does kill both my sentries. That was a big loss, a big mistake by me. I think he killed both, yeah, there we go. Because he knows he can't kill his army, so he might as well take out what he can, since his army is going to die anyway. So a good play by him. We can see he's rallying in units because he sees a vulnerable third, somewhat vulnerable third, he thinks anyway. And actually, he would be correct, and if I had some more sentries here, that would not really be the case. Or if these warp gates came up earlier, I would have another round of units, or you know, around that. Now, he still has not taken 4th base. That's not uncommon by any means, though. And I just want to actually point out, you know, we'll get back to this later. Screw it. He is forcing the cancel on a lot of these buildings. But here we go. Blink is done for me, and it's really important to focus fire those roaches. How did you lose this time? He's referring to the Blayhem tournament. I'm not gonna answer that. I'm not even gonna show respect back. All right. But anyway, so he is gonna overwhelm my army as the Zerg fashion is. All right, what is that? You watching your replay? Oh, he's smart. Those Canadians. Anyway. Anyway. I actually win this game for your what is he saying? He's good. Yeah, he was Grandmaster. That's why. Anyway, so going back to the wall, it's important to throw up at least 2 cannons at your third base, because you know they're basically almost always going to attack that. Because the Zerg player just wants to try to deny or attack your third base if it's ever vulnerable, so having cannons there is a solid choice. But yeah, this is where my analysis of the build breaks down quite a bit, and because of that I'm going to hide the replay timer, and we're going to speed through a little bit of this just so we can get to the good part of me not losing so bad. One thing I do sort of want to note though is if you're ever not getting too overrun, if you're not behind, I would say, getting an early fleet beacon is really good to do, because the mothership is basically the best unit in the game. Obviously, maybe not cost efficiency for every matchup, which is why you don't see it in any matchup but this matchup. Or maybe PvP, only in the super late game though. But my point is, the mothership allows you to do quite a bit of things. First off, you get to accumulate energy, which is really helpful because that basically means that if they ever try to attack you with those Broodlord Infestor army, you can deflect it and kill it pretty easily since you have a mothership. But also you can send Blink Stalkers around the map and then just recall them back, and that is actually really good to do. You can blink into their main base on most maps. You can do that pretty easily, like Ohana or Cloud Kingdom and whatever. And down the ridge, you can just blink into their main base, kill off all the tech you want, and then recall back out. Also, with the mothership, Zerg players usually are pretty hesitant to attack into a giant cloaked deathball toss army, or at least that's what they presume it to be when you have a mothership, because that's usually like the last piece of the puzzle, and therefore they're more, they're gonna be a little bit more hesitant about attacking into that. So it can buy you more time to get up the units you need. At the moment though, while I was rambling on about the mothership, he did kill my third base again, so it is just now starting at the roughly 17-minute mark. That is super late. Usually you want that to go down to like 11 minutes. So, StarCraft 2 is in this game it's very hard to come back when you're down by a decent amount. So that's why I thought this game was pretty cool. Not trying to spoil anything, but it was a pretty close game. I thought it was cool nonetheless. But we'll just have to see how this pans out, and I'll try to give some insight into what I'm doing, because it's very easy to find yourself behind versus Zerg. If your macro slips a little bit, if you get a wrong read into what they're doing, you can prepare for the wrong thing, maybe overreact, underreact, and whatnot. And it's sort of easy to fall behind. Just because of the swarm mentality of the Zerg army, and therefore, hopefully this will help you guys in that sort of situation. Now, I don't know if you've seen me while I've been scrolling back and forth, but these 2 warp prisms, something I like to do is send 4 mortals and drop their main base with those mortals, maybe around like anything earlier than like the 15-minute mark. I like to try to do that. But if you are ever behind and you are ever trying to defend your 4th base, just don't build these, because it's just a waste of money. And that's partly why, holy crap, those lings are like having a seizure. That's partly why I lost that third base the second time. Right now I'm pushing out just to kill these lings. I do show off my fancy new Colossus, and by the way, I would only recommend getting at a most 5 Colossus, at a max 5 I should say, at any one point. So I just figured I'd let you guys know my thoughts on that. And basically the reason for that is, one, because they cost a lot of supply. I mean, it's 6 supply, and in these late game situations they're sort of used for 2 things. One, to kill infestors if you can snipe any, luckily, and also any other ground units that the Zerg might have. They're good at killing those. but also to kill the broodlings. But at a certain point, it just sort of becomes less and less efficient or cost efficient to have like a giant troop of Colossus. Did I say troop? I don't know. So yeah, and also corruptors are a very simple and easy way for the Zerg to counter your Colossus. So that's basically why corruptors were put into the game, was to counter Colossus. So.